Good morning, everybody. This is your daily devotion for Thursday, the 20th of May. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was like a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. Now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I wanted to read that today because there's one verse from there that's just been kicking around in my head since we got the news that the CDC was lifting the mask requirements for people who have been fully vaccinated. And it's this part about now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. And just reflecting on the elation that many of our church members and my colleagues and friends and family have shared in beginning to see each other face to face. Granted, that'll be a journey that's a little bit longer for some. Some may not be comfortable with that for a while. But as more and more of our faces are reemerging, I'm just reflecting on the fact that this whole journey that we've been on in this past year and more reflects in a way the journey towards God, the journey towards paradise, towards heaven, towards the fulfillment of all things and the return of Jesus Christ. Paul talks here about this journey from not knowing, from being able only to see dimly into the future, from not being able to see face to face, from having to look through, filters, and having all of those obstacles fade away ultimately. I'm not even sure what this means, what he means by seeing face to face. Does that mean we will see each other face to face in God's reign? We'll be able to see each other without not only physical masks, but also the masks of personality and the other things we use to cover our authentic selves. Will all that be gone? Will we be able to see each other in true transparency and authenticity? Or is it talking about seeing God face to face? Will we see God face to face? And what will that be like? I'm not sure. But it's a compelling vision, isn't it? And this idea that we'll no longer have this striving to know, this need to know, right? This knowledge will come to an end. And yet And yet, I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. So there won't be this anxious pursuit of information in which I kind of try to control my environment through knowledge, but the sense that I know everything I need to know, and I am known in all the ways that I need to be known. That's a beautiful promise too. We're talking, of course, about this ultimate fulfillment of God's desire for us and for humanity that only comes about through God, through God's activity. But we're also given a hint of how we prepare for that, how we get there, how we begin to live into that reality, and that is by loving each other well. And so, even though these preliminary verses that many of us have heard so many times were not forefront in my mind as I was just thinking about the face-to-face part, it was good to go back and read those too. Because it occurs to me that, the fact that we have heard this passage so often read at weddings can obscure the fact that Paul was writing not to a couple but a congregation. It was a church community that needed to hear these words, and thinking about all that all of us have been through, and thinking about the fact that each person that we interact with has been through some kind of trauma, undoubtedly, in the past year. That really seeing each other and knowing each other will involve loving each other in a way that is patient and kind, and strives to set aside irritability and resentment, that doesn't insist on its own way. It makes accommodations for people who do and see things differently. It occurs to me that as we reopen, reemerge, re-engage, reunite, the most important thing, more important than our strategic plan or the return of programs, more important than how and when we do worship, and more important than our various groups gathering and all of the planning for the next program year. More important than any of that is how well we love each other, and how well we love those who visit with us, and how well we love those to whom we are called to bring the good news of God's love in Jesus Christ. That's really the most important thing. So that's my prayer for this week, when many of us will encounter each other face to face for the first time, that we would encounter one another with this kind of love, and that this kind of love would be our anchor as we move forward together, until the day when all barriers are broken down and there's nothing to separate us in God's love. Be blessed, my friends. May you know love, may you feel loved, and I look forward to seeing you face to face.